would like to welcome and thank everyone for attending our meeting today. It's week 28 of our Laboratory of Redemption. My name is Kayvon Hill. I'm a part of the 360 Adjuster Academy. I'm a part of the marketing team. Um, a little brief background about myself. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, raised in Houston, Texas. I've been adjusting for about a year and a half now. I have a pretty good experience of adjusting so far. My most recent deployment was in Indiana. I was out there for about 7 months, which was my longest deployment. But I started adjusting. My first deployment was in Minnesota in May of 2022. And from that point on, I did stay deployed for about a year consistently in different deployments. So adjusting has been really good for me so far. It's been very good to me. It's changed my life completely. And I'm excited for all of you who are attending the meeting today to, get this information that we're going to present to you, so you can hear, a few of our experiences and to, help you guys along your journey as adjusters as well. But for today, our topic is new beginnings, and I want to explain basically what new beginnings means to me. Uh, I'm pretty sure that everyone in here can agree that we love a fresh start. Just like at the beginning of the year, once it becomes that change to a new year, everyone has these new resolutions, these new goals that they set because it's fresh, it's like a clean slate. So what this topic means to me is just basically starting fresh, leaving things that have hindered us, that has weighed us down in the past behind, just getting a new start, a head start on things, and just getting the ball rolling. So and I think moving forward as an adjuster for me, what new beginnings means is just learning from past experiences. Like I said, I have great experiences from my past deployments. There were a lot of good things that I did, but there were also a lot of mistakes. So, with new beginnings, a new deployment is a fresh slate. You get new managers, might be a new firm that you're working for, a new carrier. So new beginnings is always great. You get a new opportunity to start over and create a new, thing for yourself. So moving forward, we will have Miss Janea. She's our own from the 360 Adjuster Academy. She'll be speaking with us today. She's a part of our operations team. Ms. Janea has been adjusting since January. Her first deployment did occur in January of last year, 2023, and she did stay deployed for the entire year, which is awesome for a new adjuster. Some people get a deployment, work for a little while, and get released, and they don't get deployments for maybe a few weeks and perhaps maybe some months. So, she is one of our testimonies of how things could change for you, and I'll let her explain herself, but she will be speaking for us today. So I would like to introduce her. Ms. Janea, if you would like to come on and introduce yourself, give a little brief,
Yes.
introduction.
Thank you, Kayvon. Thank you. First off, happy Sunday. Thank you for everyone that's here with us today and those who may look back on this video at some point. Week 28. Wow, it's been such a long journey. I'm so excited to be here. I can't believe I'm now the guest speaker. So that's cool. So for those that are new, again, my name is Janea Aiken. For those that have been returning, I'm going to go into my story a little bit more. Hopefully you guys hear some new things about me, so it won't be so, mundane. And I know I've been telling my story a lot this year, so hopefully this is one of the last few times, because my story is getting old and we're ready for some new testimonies to come in so that we can hear some new stories and, get other people excited. But nonetheless, I'll go ahead and dive right in. I'm going to go into a little bit about my background, and then I'm just going to go into like my first full year of adjusting. So a little bit about me: born and raised in New York. I grew up playing basketball pretty competitively from the age of 9 till college. Pretty much, I got a scholarship to go to school. I graduated with an accounting degree. At the time, accounting was it was very interesting to me, surprisingly. For those who are returning from our previous call about the flight assessment, I'm air traffic control and also grounds crew. So naturally, accounting, I just kind of fell into accounting. like I said, I graduated with an accounting degree. I did hold a few accounting jobs for a while. Um, they were incredibly boring. I found myself naturally, I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky person. I don't really like to sit in misery or depression, but I found myself waking up very not happy. And to
Mm.
have that at the very start of your day is tough. It's really tough for me. So I simply quit. I stopped doing accounting. I pretty much just went out and tried to hustle for myself, just find ways to make money. Again, I'm from New York, so that's just something that we're naturally born to do out here. So I remember
Right.
I began studying for trading. I began trading the market, day trading, swing trading. I was semi-successful for a few years until I blew up my account, which if you're into trading, you know that's very easy to do at times. So
Definitely.
yeah, so and when you're trading for money, like I mean not trading for money, obviously everybody's trading for money, but when you're like trading to like survive, it's a bit different. You know, you're a lot of things are on your mind when you're trading. So
Your
anyway, I
emotions
stopped
attached to
trading. Exactly. And if you're
it.
trading, you know, you can't have emotions attached. I can't be thinking about how I got rent coming up and I'm trying to be in this trade. So it was a
Yeah.
struggle for me, definitely mentally. But moving on, I held other various jobs, you know, like delivery services, Amazon, DoorDash, you know, all that good stuff. Um, and then my father fell ill. He actually developed dementia, and so that was really tough on my mom and you know, her having to take care of him and still go to work. So eventually actually ended up getting paid to take care of him. And during that time I was getting paid to put it into perspective, I was getting paid $400 a week after taxes. uh and my rent was 1,200 at the time. So yeah, I was making just enough for my bills pretty much. um, Barely surviving. But I realized while taking care of him, I had a lot of time on my hands, and I can't stay idle for too long. So I really had to figure out how to maximize my time and
Right.
really also how to just get on track, you know, because obviously I don't want to get paid $400 a week forever. You know, that's not a long term career. So really to get on track,
Right.
obviously the goal is to get financially stable. Financial freedom is usually a lot of people's goals. And for me, I thought the best route to take was to obtain that through real estate. So naturally, like I said, air traffic control, I did a whole lot of research on how I can get there. And I knew for myself personally, just going through life, I knew that I would wholeheartedly be taken advantage of getting into real estate. I knew for a fact that I would be taken advantage of. So I put it on myself to learn as much as I could about real estate or about a house in general, foundations, and you know, just things of that nature. And I stumbled upon home inspections. So I decided I'm going to study to be a home inspector. I did a whole lot of research, and I realized, okay, I think I could do this job. And so eventually I found this course uh, that I ended up taking. It was a pretty intense course. It was about 5 to 6 months. It was a few $1,000s. So it was some of the last few $1,000s that I had saved up at that time. This was 2021, end of 2021, the December very end of 2021, where I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and take this course and just invest in myself. And so I remember that course started in February 2022. So I had about a month and a half of just more time just to myself and more time to just, you know, figure out what's next. During my research of, you know, becoming a home inspector, I came across a bunch of people just talking about insurance adjusting and how it kind of coincides and the sort of similarities that they have between the two. So some of the similarities that I found was that you still have to do inspections.
Mhm.
You still have to write some type of report that you have to hand in. And, you know, just having customer service, being able to talk to people. And so I quickly was like, you know what, that let's just study for this test. and just see how that, just see if that could give us an extra boost moving forward once we, go into home inspections. And so I remember I studied for the test for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. In New York, it's a lot different from where you guys are. I heard
Right.
stories about courses and being done in 2 days. And yeah, that was not my experience. So
Did you have to go into a class to take a course, or
I
was it
didn't.
online?
I didn't. It was a self-paced. It was a self-paced
Okay.
online course. And I just, had to take my time going through it. But I did hear through the grapevine that New York was harder. So I was like, okay, let me just really study for this.
Oh yeah.
So I studied for it. I passed it. I got licensed in February 2022. I literally pushed it to the side, didn't do anything with it. Immediately started studying for home inspection because that was like my main thing. Insurance adjusting, I didn't know anything about. I just knew that it could be like a supplemental income if I decide to do home inspection as well. And so I pushed that to the side. During my 5 or 6 month course of studying for home inspection, I was a part of different groups, not quite like a community that we have, but it was just like a Discord where people were just kind of, it was people who had just got licensed or people that have been on maybe 1 or 2 deployments, people that have, that have been working in the industry for quite some time, 5, 7 years, and them just giving little tips and advice, or really just sending out deployment opportunities. And so again, this was February, February through August. So, there's a lot of deployment activity that happens during that time: wind claims, hail claims. By the time you're in August, it's, hurricane season. So there were things popping up, but I just wasn't interested in that. And so slowly over that time, I started getting a few licenses because I knew that I had to get a few licenses to work in specific states. And I knew that there wouldn't be too much work in New York as much as other states. So I started buying licenses. I got South Carolina, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Minnesota, just to name a few. I ended up getting about 6 or 7 licenses at the time. Again, was not totally bought on insurance adjusting, really was not sold on it. And then I finished my course, and my father actually took a turn for the worse. So I wasn't able to take care of him as I was, before he actually needed a nurse or aide, and my mom couldn't afford to have someone in the house, so he had to be hospitalized at the time. And so essentially, I lost my only income. And so that really pushed me to be like, okay, you know what? Let's see a little bit more about what this insurance adjusting is all about, because I need a job like ASAP.
Right.
Um, and so Hurricane Ian had hit late in 2022. And so I was hoping that was going to be my big break, like, how a bunch of new adjusters are during hurricane season.
Right.
Hurricane Ian they actually had so many people on standby, and the work wasn't a lot of work. So they actually ended up sending a whole bunch of people home during that period.
Right. It's
But
like a
of course,
flop.
it was like a bust
Yeah.
almost. So, a lot of people were excited. A lot of people got their first opportunity, and then they got sent home a few days later. So, excuse me, during that time, I remember a friend of mine had told me about FEMA. And anyone who is here listening to the call, I don't care what age you are, look into getting with FEMA. FEMA, although they are for disasters, obviously, like the big disasters, so they don't have work all the time, of course, as much as you would get in insurance adjusting. But the gig is great. They pay good. They pay for everything. It's way less work or way less labor intensive as insurance adjusting. And I
Definitely.
1000% recommend anybody listening to definitely look into getting with FEMA. Moving on though, FEMA was like my first time kind of inspecting. Again, like Kayvon had just said, Hurricane Ian was kind of a bust. So I wasn't there for long. I was only there for 4 weeks. I
Same.
made some decent money, you know what I mean? Enough to pay my rent for the rest of the year. I think I was there from October to November, so enough to pay my rent for the rest of the year.
What does that
Um,
mean? What does that mean?
enough to pay my rent. It was like I probably went home with like maybe 4,000 in my pocket. You know what I mean?
That's not bad.
After, yeah, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. But it really wasn't much work. It was almost like a vacation. I kid you not. So
Definitely.
I went home. I had my head in my hand, like, damn, it was nice, being out there. And I just wish it was longer. I just needed to get on my feet. And
Were you
so
wait, what question? I'm sorry. Were you
Mhm.
component or hourly out there?
So with FEMA, you're just like an inspector. It's hourly, both, kind of both.
Okay,
It is hourly, but it depends on how many you do. You can make a little bit more depending on how many inspections you get done. But it doesn't
got you.
matter how much the damage is. It's all the same. But
Okay,
you get paid. You get a good amount. And so, and they gave you like a per diem every day. They was giving me like $150 every day just
right.
cause. And like I don't need that much money to eat. You know what I'm saying? So it was definitely a sweet gig. Like I said, I recommend anyone listening to look into getting with FEMA as well. Um, but moving forward, I went ahead and I started reaching out. Of course, I was so excited to update my resume with FEMA on it because I had no experience, and everybody's always looking for experience until they need the people that don't have experience. You know what I mean? Until they need
Right.
a whole bunch of inspectors, they're only looking for people with experience for the most part. And so, I was still trying to reach out to a bunch of people. It just wasn't happening. I remember almost going into a depression, like for real, like, damn, I need to get this together. Like, I need to figure this out because I'm almost feeling lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And um, when you're 30 in a state where you're not where you want to be, it's really tough on you mentally. So yeah, I felt very blessed to finally get a call at the end of 2022. I remember it was like December 30th, and I got a call, and they were like, "Hey, we got freeze claims in South Carolina. We need you to report January 2nd. It's 3850. Can you do it?" Absolutely, of course I could do it.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. You know what I'm saying? I'm not even thinking twice
Yeah.
about it. Once I get off the phone, I'm like, okay, I need to get a flight. I need to rent a car. I need to get an Airbnb. Like these are things that I did not have funding for. And luckily, I have a very strong support system with my mom, who gave me some money. A very close friend of mine also gave me some money to, invest in me and say, hey, here, go do your thing. We know you're starting a new career. Pay us back when you can. So I felt very, very lucky and blessed to have that because I very much needed that.
Shout out to
I
them.
wouldn't have shout out to them because I wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't know what I would have done without that. Um, so that's pretty much my background, and then I'll go into my first year where, like I said, I started in South Carolina at the very start of 2023, where I met Demetrio my first day. Man, was I happy to see him. Oh my God, we hit it off, of course, instantly. That's my guy. So you already
Shout
know
out
we hit it off.
Meech.
We hit it off instantly. It was his first field deployment, my first field deployment, so we had that in common. But of course, he had a little other experience um, at the desk position, so he was able to give me some tips. But at the same time, we were kind of starting almost from scratch together in a way, and so although we hit it off, we didn't hang out too often there because I mean we're learning, you know what I'm saying? We're working, we're learning, and we're trying to stay deployed. We're definitely much trying to stay
Right.
deployed. So man, I learned so much out there. It was interior claims. It was not easy. I remember by day 10 or 12 is when, and I said this in a previous call, that's when I kind of hit a roadblock in a way, and I was I felt very overwhelmed, and I had a moment with myself where I thought like maybe I can't do this, just like a moment of weakness, like man, maybe I can't do this. This is really hard. Like this is tough
Right.
work to do. And then I got paid about 2 days later. No lie, I got paid about 2 days later, and I got paid almost $5,000. So I'm like, what?
And
Let's
that
just
was
pick
on
it
what
up.
day? That was day
That was about day 10. Day 10. I had been working for about 10 or 11 days, and I got paid a nice fat
5,000.
check.
That's
Yes, I got
crazy.
paid about 5,000. So of course that gave me some added motivation, very much so. It was like, okay, yeah, let's just we could figure this out. Like we could
I
figure
can
this
do
out.
this.
Let's just figure this out. We could do this. And so a lot of late nights, that those first 3 weeks, a lot of late nights. My manager, my manager called me about 3 weeks, and before I get into that, actually, I remember being with Meech, and we just had seen so many different opportunities popping up. Like when the firms are reaching out to you, they send a mass text to everyone. Hey, we have Two Steep Story, Minnesota. This is the pay. Reply yes. So we had just seen so many things popping up, and I remember we saw QA had something for California. I don't know if Meech remembers this, but it said 6850, and I was like, man, can you imagine like getting something like that? Like, that's crazy.
Right.
And so I remember my manager called me, and he basically was like, hey, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I'm like, so every time my manager calls, I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's up? What's going to do? Am I in trouble?
Nervous.
Like every time
Yeah.
my manager calls me, to this
Every
day,
time.
I'm like, it's good news. Like, what we got? Just tell me right away what we're dealing with so I can calm down. So yeah, he was pretty much like, hey, we know you don't know much. You're doing great, but we're going to release you. Pretty much, like, but it's no fault of your own. You're doing great. We love your work. In fact, we want you to go to California. Would you be interested in going to California? So I'm like, the obvious answer I said was, of course I'll go to California. Thousand
Yes.
percent. 1000%. So it was kind of bittersweet because I had just, got into a routine of, how to inspect, how to book my schedule up, and just little things like that. And I had made decent money in South Carolina. I had made about, after taxes, I had made about almost 9,000. So again, I was only there for less than 3 weeks. I was probably there for like 18 days, 20 days. So
9,000 in 18
9,000 is
days.
right. So you already know I was like, yeah, wherever you want me to go, let's go.
I'm there.
Um,
That's crazy.
exactly. I'm there. So at that time I went to California, and to be honest, it felt like I had got knocked back down all over again. Because like I said, in South Carolina, all I was doing was interior claims. I was just inside. I was very
Right.
comfortable being
No
inside,
Steve
just
Bruce.
having to measure. I'm not even looking at the roof. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it felt like I had got knocked back down because now I'm doing wind claims. I have no idea what I'm doing all over again. I
Completely different ball game.
have no idea what I'm doing. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it was rough. It was a rough start. I can't lie to you. That was the first time I ever got on a roof. I didn't even know that I wasn't afraid until I actually did it. Because I
Yes.
would never, ever find myself on anyone's roof before this job. Like, why would I be on anyone's roof? Like, there's no need for me to be up there. So when I did it, I was like, wow, this isn't bad. Like, this isn't too scary. Like, I could do this. Like, it's actually pretty light.
Right.
And so I had different challenges there, which was so now I have to understand how to identify wind damage shingles. What does wind damage look like on the exterior? Um, and little things like that. So I had those challenges, of course. And I remember being able to speak to a veteran out there who was also on my team, and him being like, when you're on hourly and stuff, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, just do like 2 claims a day. You know what I'm saying? You're getting paid the same amount. And so just don't push yourself too hard. And I remember like hearing that advice and being like, I guess that's good advice. At a certain time, that could be good advice. But for me, component was always the goal. And in component, you got to be able to close at least 3 claims a day, right? They expect you to inspect and close at least 3 a day. So in my mind, I couldn't just stay at 2 a day because I had a bigger goal in mind. I really wanted to get on component. When everyone hears about those crazy amounts that people are making, typically they're making them on component. So that was always my goal. And so with that said, I heed his advice, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, I'm trying to get to 3 a day because I'm trying to get to a component eventually and really get
Right.
to the money. So I really pushed myself in California. I was doing 2 claims a day, but a lot of times I was doing 3 a day. I had just learned how to close the claim the same day. Just fence claims though, because closing claims is a whole nother process. After you inspect, after you do the report, now you got to do 10,000 clicks to get the claim closed. You know what I'm saying? So
Whole
it was
process.
a whole other process. So
Yeah.
I was happy that I was able to close a few claims, just fence claims, but I was happy about that. I ended up staying in California for 2.5 months. I ended up making almost 50,000 in California. I'm not
Man,
gonna lie to you. I made almost fifty
two
thousand
and a half
dollars in
months.
California in 2.5 months. So you already know I was hooked. I was hooked.
Yeah.
After South Carolina, after California, I'm hooked. Is it the most work I've ever done in my life? Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Definitely.
Do I work every day? Yes, I work 7 days a week. I'd love to say I work 12 hours a day, but that's just a lie. I do not work 12 hours a day.
Right.
I work 14, 16 hours a day, seven
Right.
days a week. So at that point, I was tired. The deployment came to an end just because if anybody else here knows, the State Farm, they pretty much pulled out of California. So there are no new contracts. Excuse me, there are no new contracts in California. And so I went home and I was, I was happy. I was happy to get some days off because I hadn't got a single day off.
No
I
days
got let
off.
go. Right, I got let go middle of April. That was my first time having any time off. And so I went home and I was home for 6 days before they called me back. 6 days. I got a call from Aaron Deal. And if anybody knows that name, first of all, you get excited when you see him calling you. Second of all, you can't say no. So I got a call from Aaron Deal. He said, "Hey, I got a gig in Missouri. It's 4550. I need you there in 2 days. Can you go?" And just to pause for a second, like sometimes with this job, um, where they send you is not always gonna be like a fun place or somewhere where you're excited to
Right.
go. Like I'm on the phone thinking Missouri, like, you think I want to go to Missouri? No, I don't want to go to
Not at all.
nobody's Missouri. Like I don't want to go to Missouri at all. But at the same time, where the money resides. So nonetheless, I said, absolutely, I'll go to Missouri. Um, I I'm always excited about traveling in general, because I love to travel. And with this job, it gives you the opportunity to go places where you never thought that you would go visit.
Right.
I never thought I would go to St. Louis. Like I just didn't think that.
There's no
Um,
need.
but right, no need. But visiting there, Missouri is a very beautiful state. Along with a lot of states in the Midwest, it's very green, it's very beautiful, and it has a lot of culture there. So it was very nice to go visit there for a little bit and live in St. Louis and just feel the vibe or whatever. A lot of dangerous places there, but still be smart.
Right.
Nonetheless, but Missouri again, it was almost like I had got knocked back down because now I'm doing hail claims. You know what I'm saying? So I went from interior,
Yeah.
I went to wind claims, and now I'm doing hail. I have no idea how to recognize hail. I live in New
At
York.
all.
I maybe seen a hailstorm once and it was this small. It was like, oh wow, hail. Like you're excited to see it. I've never experienced a hailstorm. So
Yeah.
I don't know what hail looks like. You know what I'm saying? Especially on a roof, on shingles, on windows. I have no
Right.
idea.
That
And
stuff could be
so
anything.
literally anything. So I remember when I went to Missouri, I had a new manager at the time, and I kind of bumped heads with my new manager. This was my first time kind of dealing with someone that I didn't see eye to eye with all the time. And I knew the state that I was in. I think I may have been besides one other lady there, I was the only woman there. And so it very much felt like a boys club there. And when I was in it, not looking back at it, but when I was in it and I was kind of bumping heads with my manager, I kind of just was like, whoa, it's me, almost like, oh, he doesn't like me, or, he doesn't want to see me win, or, whatever it is, just basically not labeling myself pretty much for anything. But besides that, when I went there for hourly, um, starting off, this is my third deployment. So it was very lax the beginning. I'm making my calls, I'm getting people scheduled, I'm kicking back. Like I'm done at 5. Like, I'm just chilling, you know. And this is my first time experiencing like that, because as an adjuster, you're always on go. You're constantly on go. And so this is my first time. In the beginning, I'm just chilling. I'm like, all right, this is what it's like when you're kind of like finally figuring out, you know, the road. And then I remember my manager, after a week, he was like, hey, you're doing great. Would you want to go component? And I'm just like, he was like, just think about it. And I was like, component? Like, they do that? They randomly like just switch you over? And so I thought about it for a while, and he hit me back again, probably like a few days later, like, hey, what do you think? And at the time, I was like thinking about what that guy said, right? Just do 2 a day, you chilling, you feeling good. And I was thinking like, maybe that's what I should do this deployment. Like, let's just relax. Like, we're finally getting into a good mode. Like, let's just do 2 a day and chill. But my goal was always component. And it was crazy to me that it got brought up so quickly, because from what I hear, it's like you got to take your time getting into component. You got to wait like a year if you really want to do it properly, and you know, all this other stuff. So I'm just like, do I want to do this? Like, do I want to put this much pressure on myself? But of course, I'm trying to challenge myself. So of course I said yes, sign me up. And those who don't know, component is a different beast. You pretty much eat what you kill. So if you're not closing claims, you're not getting paid.
You're not getting paid.
You're not sitting back, relaxing, chilling, and watching the money flow in. It's not like that at all.
You don't want paper days either.
You don't want paper days. And that's another thing that's so important that I didn't mention. You don't want paper days. And I need paper days. Right. I'm not at that level yet where, to this day, I'm not at that level yet where I don't need a single paper day. I'm sorry, but those paper days saved my life.
What's a paper day?
For those who don't know, I was just about to say, for those who don't know, paper days are like, okay, so you inspect, let's say you inspect 2 on Monday, you inspect 3 on Tuesday, you inspect 1 on Wednesday, and then you take Thursday and don't do any inspections, and you just catch up from, you got to make your calls, you got to schedule new people, you got to figure out the new claims that you got to close the old claims that you inspected. So paper days are super important, especially when you're starting out. You don't want to get into a hole. That's one of the biggest things that you don't
let those claims pile up.
Because let me tell you, that's very overwhelming. That happened to me once when I was in South Carolina. And it happened to me again when I was in Chicago. But because I was well adjusted by the time I was in Chicago, it didn't seem like a hole to me. It was just like, man, let me just get a good paper day and I'm gonna knock all of them out. And,
sit down for a couple hours.
Right. And just knock them all out. And so in Missouri, when I went on component, it was a different type of beast. Like I said, I had to really pack out my schedule. And it was hard. It was very, very hard. I remember my first paycheck was very similar to what I would have made on hourly. And that's when I was like, okay, Janea, I had a long talk with myself, like, okay, Janea, so like, you can't work any less than what you're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? You have to go harder if you want to make it worth your while. And so I did do that for a while. And like I said, I kind of was bumping heads with my manager during that time. So I pretty much was ready to go home. I'm not gonna lie to you. I pretty much was like, man, bump this guy. I don't like working under him. I don't like working with him. You know, forget him. Like, I can't wait to go home on some stuff like that, you know, which is looking back.
And that happens. So silly. You're going to have some managers that, you know, they're not going to be fans of, but
exactly that. So when I was in it, I didn't care about none of that. I was pissed. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, whatever. So I left Missouri. I ended up making probably like $28,000 almost in Missouri. I was only there for 6 weeks. So
nice.
I got a little taste of component, you know what I'm saying? I got a little taste of it where I was like, wow, like, okay, like, what can I really do once I get this down? Like, I'm excited.
100K club.
100K, but that's before I even thought I could do that. Yo, Kayvon, I didn't even have that in my mind that was possible yet. I had no idea that was possible yet.
And we'll explain that to you all later. Everyone in the meeting with the 100K club.
Right. So I ended up going home for about a full month. And anybody who has been an adjuster, at least in that beginning stage, when you get home after making a decent amount of money, you're like, what
time wasted.
Like, what am I gonna do? And then you start thinking about, damn, I could have did this on my deployment. I could have did this better. I dropped the ball when I was doing this. Like, I should have never, like, like I should have stayed in it. And looking
Yeah.
back on it, if I had this community, that would have been a breeze. It would have been
Com-
so easy. It would have been so
Cake.
easy for me to stay there. Just being able to talk to anyone here and just shoot it with somebody and just talk about even K Joy, like, even if I could speak to kids and be like, yo, why are managers like this? What can I do? I'm sure I would have been able to stay there way longer than 6 weeks. And I was very disappointed in myself because it was a great storm. It was about 3 inch hail, 3.5 inch hail. You don't get that all the
Oh
time.
yeah, not at all.
You don't get, and I didn't know that at the
Yeah,
time. So remember, that was my first hailstorm. So I'm just like, I don't even care. Like, get me out of here. Like, and
yeah.
so I was very disappointed in myself once I had 2 to 3 weeks to sit down and not get paid and really focus on what happened during that deployment. I was very disappointed in myself. Um, but nonetheless, I stayed home for a month. Of course, I got another call from Aaron Deal. Hey, can you go to Chicago? Heard Meech was there. I said, of course I can go to Chicago. Absolutely.
That's the
That was
best. When
right.
you go to a
And
deployment and you know
yo,
someone.
that out of all my deployments, that was the second time I was around an adjuster when I went to Chicago. So my
Wow.
first time was when I was in South Carolina. I hadn't seen an adjuster again until I saw Meech again in July.
So you didn't have any
Um,
war rooms in any of your
Nope. In
deployments?
California, I was on an island. I was by myself. There was nobody there for like at least 2.5 hours. I had the
And for
whole Fresno.
everyone, basically what a war room is like when you're an adjuster, they will sometimes the firms they will like get a hotel room, like a conference room downstairs
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, and they
Mm-hmm.
will have the managers and a few trainers there where you can come in and get help.
Exactly.
So sometimes on
Mm-hmm.
deployments you might have a war room where you can go and get some assistance and some help, and sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
might not. So that's what she
And
means by
that
she's
was
on that
it.
island. Yeah,
Right. And that was it. I didn't have any help out there or in Missouri really. Um and so yeah, so I went out to Chicago, met up with Meech. He gave me the lay of the land, of course. And I remember right before I even got my claims, we're just kicking it. Travis called Meech, and I had never spoken to Travis. I'd never met him, nothing like that. Um, and I remember Meech being like, "Yo, like, say what's up to him, and ask him whatever." And so, of course, being the air traffic control, I'm asking him 1,000 questions right off
right.
the rip. I'm like, "Yo, how do you do it? How much you making? Like, how?" Like, I was asking him so many questions. That conversation probably lasted about 25 minutes, and the gems he gave me in 25 minutes,
Yeah.
I immediately put into place. I was doing like 5 claims a day, sometimes 6 claims a day, depending on, if I could work it in my schedule, but it gave me a jump immediately.
And we all
And
need
that was the
that. We need
best
that
thing.
motivation.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it gave me the motivation I needed immediately. And working in Illinois is kind of tough. I know you've worked in Illinois before, so
Yes.
dealing with PAs, it's kind of hard on your schedule.
Right.
Dealing with a public adjuster, that's usually when usually the customer or the policyholder will call a public adjuster to kind of speak on their behalf. And
Right.
so in that state, it's the law, like, you have to do the inspection with them. And so I can't really run my schedule as well as I would like to, but I was still able to get up to 5 or 6 claims in a day, which showed me, like, okay, if I can really stay focused, maybe I could do this. And then that's when I was introduced to 100K in a month. And I'm just like, when when you hear about insurance adjusting, you always hear about all the crazy amounts that people can make, make half a million in a year or X amount in a year. But it's very rare that you get to talk to those people. It's even more rare that you get to meet those kind of people. So being able to talk to Travis, it opened my world completely. I
Completely.
mean, nobody I know is doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We're all reaching for that. So being able to talk to him and him just giving me his time, like, and not wanting anything from me, not asking for anything, it was a blessing.
Huge
Meech
blessing.
helped. Meech helped put me in miracle territory. I'll tell you that right now. Meeting him was a blessing from the very start of 2023.
Shout
Um,
out to Travis.
exactly. So,
For real, for real.
being with them in this community, I lasted for that deployment. Like you said, you were on deployment for 7 months. I haven't reached a 7 month mark yet, but I know that I wouldn't have stayed in Chicago as long as I did
Right.
without this group, without Meech. You know what I'm saying? So it's really important to have community. Like it's huge in this business, and maybe for a
I
lot
wish
of
I had it.
right. I was about to say maybe for a lot of male adjusters, this could be a different story. But for me, being on my own and just having other people to talk to. Naturally, I'm a homebody and I'm very introverted, so I don't mind not speaking at all. Like I don't mind being to myself. You know what I'm saying? So I never had that problem of like traveling and having to be to myself, but being able to talk to other people about the job is really big, because it's tough. It's not an easy
Right.
gig. You work
And you're not alone in it, because you might think that, hey,
exactly,
I'm drowning right now, and there's probably other adjusters that's killing it. No, we all have struggles,
exactly,
you know. So
exactly. And being in Chicago for so long, I became part of the cleanup crew. So in previous deployments, I didn't care about how I left my claims when I left. When it was time to go, it was time to go. I don't
I'm
care.
out of here.
That I'm not worried about the claims. You know what I'm saying? But being in Chicago and having to be the cleanup crew, it put a lot of things into perspective. Like, okay, let's
Yeah,
help the next person out because when you don't get that help, it's like you're a detective. This job is you're almost like a detective. I got to figure out this. I got to put this together. But who paid this? And was this confirmed that we were supposed to pay for that? And it's a lot. But I made a good amount of money in Chicago. I made after taxes. Now taxes, we'll have that conversation a whole nother day.
oh yeah,
So
they'll get you.
after taxes, I made about 90,000. So I
And how
was
long?
incredibly happy with that. That was about 5.5 months.
Okay, man,
Right. Five and a half
that's
months.
awesome.
Right. After taxes, I made about 90,000. So um last year in general was an amazing year. Of course, like I said, I was taking care of my father. I was making $400 a week after taxes, legally, of course. And then this job, I made 237,000 this year. Like I had to get that number for
Wait
today,
a
and I'm
minute.
like, what?
In 1 year?
1 year. I can't even believe it. I don't even think it's true. Like I think they fudged the number
No
somewhere in there because I
experience.
don't even think it's true. No
No
experience,
4 year degree necessary.
like it's crazy, and I feel incredibly blessed to have done that. Like I said, I worked for about 10 and a half months this year, or 10 months, 10 and a half months. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. I had a great year. I learned so much. This community that we developed is like the best part of the year. And I'm so excited to just see other people come through this community. Like I said, my story is getting old. Like, come on, this is last year now. I
It'll
can't
never get
wait.
old. No experience making 237
Right.
thousand in a year.
No, I know. I
That's
know. I
dentist
know.
doctor money, no
I
degree
know.
for it.
I
Man, that's
know.
awesome.
And it's
Huge, man.
it is and it's great. The some of the things that I would just leave for other new adjusters is um organization is really big. You're doing so
Huge.
many things. You're everywhere. It is everywhere. From when you wake up to think about claims, it's nonstop. Oh, I
Yeah.
gotta remember to call this guy back. I gotta remember to get these people scheduled. I gotta close these claims. I gotta call this policyholder that's been calling me every day, leaving me a
Yeah.
voicemail. Janae, please get back to me.
I had nightmares
You know what
about claims.
I
I'll sleep
mean?
thinking
Like
about claims.
you go to sleep right before you go to bed. You're like, damn. First thing in the morning, I gotta make sure I call Mrs. Johnson because she's been blowing me up all week. Or you know what I'm saying? You're so many people that you're dealing with. So organization is huge. I
Get a
remember
planner. That's a
in
huge
my
tip. I say get a planner.
that was another as soon as Travis I saw Travis had a planner and I know this other trainer had a planner, I immediately ordered one. Like pay
Right,
attention to
Toby.
what those people are doing. You know what I'm saying? The people that are
Right.
making money, pay attention to what they're doing. So just organization, staying out of a hole, meaning just don't bite off more than you can chew. The person who is inspecting 10 claims and closing none in that week doesn't necessarily look better than the person who's inspecting one claim a day and closing each one every day. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
don't bite off more than you can chew. Another big thing is save up some money. If you don't have a strong support system, save up some money before you go on deployment. I didn't have a car, so I had to fly places. I had to
Same.
rent. I had to rent a car,
Yeah.
and you got to pay rent on the road, and you got to pay rent at home for those who have an apartment. Or it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. So you don't want to get, washed out before you even get started type stuff. You know what I mean? So, and
And some
anything that I
companies
did
do give
this,
advances
that is
just to
true. I
get
didn't learn that for
that
a
notice
while.
as
Yeah, I
well.
didn't learn that
Yeah.
to my second deployment, that you can get advance with some companies. But lastly, anything that I did in 2023, I promise you, everybody here can do. I didn't do anything that was outstanding. I asked questions. I followed it. I try to make sure that they wasn't telling me the same thing over and over. And I just listened to the people that were doing it well, just listening to them, and because of
Right.
that, I quickly became a problem solver for my manager in Chicago. It was like he was giving me all the problem claims that he had, and it was just like pretty much like tough policyholders, but just being able to talk to people. That's the real reason why he was giving me those claims, because then I'm
And that
talking to
says a
them.
lot.
Right.
That
That
says a
says a
lot.
lot. They're
Yeah.
cursing me out on the phone, and when I see them, they have none of that heat. They're sweet, they're nice, they're just in a
Right.
tough spot, and they're getting the runarounds. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And another
Which
adjuster may
happens.
have dropped the ball. So it's on
Mm-hmm.
you to really clean it up and really show, like, hey, I'm sorry for that other person, but I'm going to make sure I get you right. We'll get
Be
this done
innovative.
just as soon as we can. So I feel like that's really how I was successful last year, pretty much. And of course, being in miracle territory always helps.
That's that's awesome.
But yeah, that's pretty much my story for 2023.
Man,
Yes,
that's
sir. Any
awesome. That's
questions for
awesome.
anyone? Yeah,
Yes, if you have
it
any
was a great
questions,
year.
I have
please
a
drop it
question
in
in the
the
chat
chat.
for you
Oh,
from Rendell.
good. What did it say? I'm sorry, I'm on my phone.
Says, Janae, with that much income at once, what did taxes look like for you?
Ooh. I I have when I hear taxes, I want to fight. They are robbing me. They are robbing
Yeah.
me. You know what I'm saying? They taking about 35-40% of your money easily.
Yeah.
And I don't
Easily.
know how everybody else is set up. My taxes that I'm single, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what it is for me. They tax you, boy. They tax you. And I'm not
You
gonna lie
can
to
go
you. So
exempt too, but
right.
that's
So I learned
teachers
a
on.
few, things, and being in this community with Coach Ryan, I'm definitely looking forward to doing some tax planning for next season with him. Because that's really my goal moving forward, is like, okay, now you found a source of income. Like, now we have to minimize other things. And taxes is a whole person's salary, how much they
Yeah.
took from me. A whole nother
Easily.
person's salary.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, because them taxes, man, I want to fight. I'm not even lying. Every time I hear about taxes, I'm like, bro, I don't even want to talk about it. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah. So like, and like on average, I'll say for myself, like
Mm-hmm.
when I would work an hourly deployment, I'm not sure what who asked the question, but
Mm-hmm.
to give like a numeric example, um if I was getting paid like $45 an hour, I'm working 12-hour workdays, 7 days a week. That's 84 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
My paychecks before taxes probably would, I'll say, be like 4,960 something dollars. But
Mm-hmm.
after those taxes get taken out, it could be like $3,400, or it could be
Right.
like $1,000 they take from you weekly, because we make so much that
Mm-hmm.
they'll take a huge chunk of money. But at the end of the day, it's like you're still getting paid a lot of money, but they
Exactly.
do take a
They
little
rob
bit
you.
of
And like,
taxes.
for another example, really quick, I remember like when I went from South Carolina to California, I was getting paid or whatever. And it took me about 4 weeks to realize, like, oh, like I wasn't getting paid as much as maybe I thought I should have. Like, because, I went from 38.50 to 68.50. And so I hit up HR and they were like, oh my God, Janea, you're correct. Like, you weren't getting paid the correct amount. We apologize for that. We'll send you a check at the end of this week. And I'm like, okay, bet. So I went to go check like online, and my check was for 15,000, just about that discrepancy of what they missed
Oh
out on
no.
paying me. Right. That's how
Wow.
long it took me to
What?
realize. But the amount I actually received was about 9,000. So just to give you a perspective of how much taxes they took, it was about almost 15,000 they gave me, but they only actually gave me about 9,000. So just off of that, I hope that's a good example. But go ahead, you have another question?
No, I just kind of wanted to, you guys answer the question. I think more so, obviously, this looks like a very lucrative business. And anytime in a lucrative business, you need to understand what tax bracket that you're in. And
Right.
so, like, I think the beginning of your story, you kind of came in and you was like, hey, I got an appointment, but, wasn't as successful as I thought. I didn't spend that much time. So if I was just coming into insurance adjusting, and let's say I wasn't making any money at all, I think, one thing, and this is my second session with you guys, but it seems like the platform is very encouraging, motivating, trying to make sure we prevent things from happening that possibly happened, when you guys came on. I guess, taxes are a big deal, period, because I think a lot of times you can create expectations within yourself. Like if you throw out a number, you say, oh yeah, I made $237,000, to the
Mm-hmm.
person who probably has never made that amount of money, you kind of go in with expectations thinking you're gonna make that kind of money. Um,
Right.
but then, that's not really the take home because there's so much other things. I know when Travis and I talked, when he talked about just as far as we didn't talk specific tax brackets, but we talked about as you increase in money, being able to already identify certain things that you are going to be able to do with your money. I have different
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits that I give to with what I make right now. So like you're going into your second year, Janea. Is there anything you
Mm-hmm.
could talk about as you plan certain things that you've strategized to be able to be intentional with on making sure, because you may make 400,000 this year. Who knows, right? Like
That's
who knows
definitely
what
the
the number
goal.
Gonna
is?
happen. We're claiming
Yeah,
That's
it.
definitely the goal.
yeah. So depending on what that is, and again, that you always move to a next tax bracket depending on like
Mm-hmm.
what the status is. You filing single, you filing married, whatever that be,
Mm-hmm.
an amount of money. So and maybe not just you. Is there anybody on here who could talk about strategy, what that looks like as they move from one tax bracket to another to be able to be very intentional so you don't lose money? Because people who make lots of money who are wealthy, they don't lose money.
Right. Right.
They
Right.
they figure
Absolutely.
out ways in order to put it back so they can come back to them. So I'm just curious if anyone has any stories, anything that they want to share, not just for my own edification, but I know there
Mm-hmm.
may be many people who also may be thinking of it.
So I can say that
Um,
Coach Ryan sometimes he gives
mhm.
financial tips. I'm not sure if he's on here today. But go ahead, Janae. You go ahead and
I was gonna
yeah.
briefly just say my first year was all about just like feeling like I'm playing catch up financially, and I was able to just minimize my debt completely. And so that was my goal for 2023. But now that I've been on break for a while, that's all I've been thinking about. Like what you said, strategizing on what I can do for the next tax year, or just finding out ways to supplement my income. Like that's so I don't have a great answer for you. I'm hoping that somebody here helps me out because that is the things that I'm currently interested in figuring out, just how to move forward. Because it's great that you can make the money. That's awesome.
Right.
That's awesome.
But you can spend
But
it easily too.
you, yeah, yeah,
Easily.
that part, that
So,
part.
and I say,
So
and
I'm,
from my experience as well, we are, motivating and telling you how much money you can make, but someone can make more money than another person, but they can also spend more. So the amount of money that they see and that they actually, touch compared to the next person who might have made less but save
yep.
more and spend less,
Mm-hmm.
money management is more important than how much money you make because I know a lot of people that make a lot of money but they also spend a lot of money, so
Right.
it's like at the end of the day You see people living, very well, but it's very important to save because you never know what
Right.
can happen. In my situation specifically, I worked from May 2022 all the way up until June of this past year, 2023.
Mm.
And I was offered a deployment after I was released from my 7-month deployment. But I wasn't able to go to that deployment due to family issues. So, and then right after that, we had this whole situation going on with State Farm, where they were saying that they were weaning away from using independent adjusters as much, which that's all to end now. But I haven't been able to get a deployment for a couple of months. So there, you never know if you might run into a slow season where you might have to lean on your savings that you acquired while you were working. So I would say I would definitely recommend that while you're working, even though it's very easy to be like, I could go ahead and buy this designer bag or whatever because I'm gonna get another
Mm.
$4,000 check in a few days. But it's very important to be mindful of your spending because you can look up and see, hey man, I spent $10,000 in a month. That sounds like a lot of money, but when you're moving around and you're just living, that money goes fast. So definitely save, save, save. And it's very hard because you're making a lot of money, but make sure that you save and also invest as well. So
Mm.
strategizing is very important.
Right.
And
And
and I
that's
just like to
mhm.
add to that, guys. What they're talking about is a part of the 360 approach. It's one thing for us to talk about helping you get to this bag. It's another thing for us to, talk to you about securing the bag. But it's also another thing to just really go over financial stewardship, to have good stewardship over your resources so that you don't have a rainy season or abundant season and then turn right around and have a dry season, which is really what they're getting at. It can be, raining money on you a few months and then
Yeah,
it can dry up. And so just use, everything at your disposal to balance that out, make those financial moves, and deploy a strategy that's going to keep your head above water even during the dry season.
definitely. And I'm a living testament of it. It was raining money for a
Right.
long time, and like I said, once I never expected for it to be a season where State Farm they're not using independence right now, so no the deployments just stopped. So in that moment, it's easy to be like, oh, the money's coming. I won't be off for longer than a month or however
Mm-hmm.
long I want to be off. It's up to me, but you never know what can happen. So.
Mm-hmm.
Like Coach said, it's definitely important to make those right investments because luckily I saved a lot of money while I was working. I know a lot of people
Right.
who didn't save as much, but I've been able to survive and last off of what I've saved. But I've also made a few investments as well, so
Mm-hmm.
that's very important. But do we have any other questions moving forward? Check the chat. Okay, no questions. All right. So I want to say thank you to Janea for telling us your story. That was very insightful, from adjuster to adjuster. We know the grind, we know everything that goes into it. So I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate you, telling us your experiences. I'm pretty sure anyone in here who hasn't went on a deployment yet appreciates it as well. But I would
Thank
like
you.
to tell you guys also, if you do have any questions, even after the meeting, always
Mm-hmm.
feel free to reach out to us. Don't forget about our feedback forms as well. If you have any questions or you want to know anything, feel free to reach out. We'll have someone from the team get back to you guys. And I think we have the links dropped. There we go. Thank you, Major.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And another
Yeah.
thing I would like
Feedback
to
form
say,
is big. Sorry, go ahead.
huge. No problem. But yes, and please, if everyone that's in here, if you can please follow us on our socials as well. That way we
Yes,
can stay
please.
connected. You guys can see what we're posting. We post daily. So we would truly appreciate that as well. But again, thank you, Janea. That was beautiful. Your story
Yes.
is similar to mine, so it's like I relate to you on a different level, like honestly.
Nice.
But we do have a tip of the week coming up right now from
Mm-hmm.
Coach K Joy. If you would like to come on out and tell us our adjuster tip of the week, we truly appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, great job again, Janea. To hear your story, heard bits and pieces, but it's great to hear it all together, ma'am. So kudos to you. To one wonderful year, on to an amazing next year. So looking forward to that. But really quick, tip of the week to get us out of here, y'all. Oddly enough, I'm just going to share a tip that was on a herbal tea bag this week that I was drinking from a herbal tea bag I was in this week. But it says something special is brewing. So it just flows right into what our topic already is about new beginnings, right? When you hear about something like this particular opportunity, it's not probably the first time some of y'all have heard about it. Sometimes it's y'all have been on here multiple times, but I say that because we're early in the year, right? So a lot of people are planning, what's this year going to look like? What are my resolutions? What am I trying to work through? What else, financially, what am I trying to get out of? How am I trying to fix my credit? All these a million things, right? And so you hear these calls like, oh my gosh, I can make all this money. I can learn about taxes. They have all these other opportunities. But I say this to say, a lot of times when, we're in the midst of something and we're looking for something different, right? Sometimes this opportunity comes up, an opportunity comes up, and it is because something has been brewing within yourself. It's been saying, hey, maybe like Janea, the accounting thing is like, oh, it's okay, but it's not really maybe where I want to be. I know there's every transition I've made in my particular life, whether it was personal or business wise or starting businesses, it was in reference to that passion inside of me that was brewing that I may have been unsure about taking the step on. So I say this to say, while we're talking about new beginnings, it's January for a lot of people. Well, it's January for everybody, so let me be clear. But while you're thinking about the next steps in life, right? I can assure you that something special is brewing. I can assure you that because you're here listening to this call, right? So whether you've been a part of our community or you're coming onto our community and trying to learn something different, we talk a lot about extending this on to other people, and the reason is for the same things that you heard people talk about today, right? Key things, life-changing money, opportunity to get into other things, whether it's investments, whether it's growing another business. There's a million reasons why something like this that's brewing helps you get into new beginnings, right? And it doesn't matter what drives you there. Eventually, many people will tell us too, I don't have another passion. I don't know what else I want to grow. And that's okay. You don't have to know it overnight, right? But over time, I can assure you there's something else that'll go off in you that will say, hey, you may want to get into real estate. You heard Janea talk about that. You've heard Major talk about investments. You've heard Major talk about, he has multiple businesses. A lot of us on here, Coach Ryan, some of y'all haven't heard from him, but you will. He has multiple businesses. You'll hear about people that have multiple backgrounds. Toby's one of them. Multiple extensive backgrounds. You hear about Travis that pours into not only his team, but to people that are looking at coming onto the team, if they want to get interested in becoming an adjuster. That's not something that he has to do, right? And for some of y'all that haven't met Travis personally or some of the other people part of the team, the whole reason why we pour into y'all, because we do believe, that there is something brewing within you and there's something special going on. So whether you decide to become an adjuster for one reason or 5 reasons, maybe it's to get out of debt, maybe it's to get into something that you've never seen before, it doesn't really matter, right? The important part is that you're willing to get in, learn something new. I'll just say this in reference to sports, because I know there's a lot of games going on right now. A lot of people are, y'all are here with us when you could be anywhere watching games. But you think about pro athletes, they don't only train in the season that they're in, right? They train in the off season. And a lot of the pro athletes that you hear about being the best and the ones that you hear over the years that have been best, even some of those that have played multiple pro sports, when you hear their story, it's so special because they decided to hustle like nobody else would. When you hear about motivational speakers like Eric Thomas talking about getting up extra early in the morning because he's going to be the first one to put certain messages out, things like that, to be ahead of competitors, there's something special that sets people apart, right? So when you hear something like this quick message that says something special is brewing, that's not just for some people, because some people are going to say, oh, you know what? It didn't happen for me like that. I have to work extra hard. I have to hustle. Everybody that you will hear on this call that's a guest speaker will talk about hustle. They're going to talk about grit. They're going to talk about passion.
Yes.
They're going to things they've been through in life. None of us have escaped it easy. And I get it. Some of y'all are going to have friends and family. You're like, oh man, it's been easy for them. And I don't want to harp on what's not been easy. What I'm saying with that is that sometimes when you've had it difficult or you've had some trials and tribulations through life, when someone says something like that to you, something special is brewing, you start to doubt it, right? I hear people, we talk about independent, oh, I'm not sure if I can do it. Oh, I haven't really had a job like that. I don't know. Okay, well, here's the community, right? We're basically reaching out with an olive branch to you, your friends, your family, anybody that you want to involve in this. Our Sunday calls are free. We're working on a million things in the background to help build people up for that reason, right? New beginnings, something is brewing. Here's what I can tell you. I honestly believe this field is something that is recession proof. I did an interview on an insurance podcast talking a little bit about AI and some things, but one of the things I said was I can't see how they could ever all get rid of adjusting altogether. There's a human element that comes to with it to some factor that no one else can fill in my opinion. So although I've been on teams where we've reduced independent adjusting teams because we were building up our inside adjusters, right? So they could write desk estimates from Hancock, workups and different things like that. And ladder now, there's absolutely a need for that human element to be able to adjust claims in the field, at the desk, and at many levels. So no matter whether you're like, oh, I can't be in the field like Janea, oh, I may not be able to always, work a desk assignment. Like you hear everybody on the call saying, there's times where they've taken breaks where they needed to. And that's also something that this business affords you that for. So I'm here to tell you that when I read something like this on my tea bag, it speaks and lightens up my heart. Toby and Trav can attest to that. I definitely said it to them with a few words of, oh my gosh, this is all about 360 right here. So I want you to know, and I just want, if nobody's ever told you, you can do it. New beginnings are out there for everybody. There is something brewing, and 360 is absolutely that something. I may be a little biased, so some of y'all are probably saying, well, you would say that. You're absolutely right. I would say that.
And I truth.
Point for those of y'all that don't know my background,
yep.
I'm from a staff background. I've also done IA work. I've done auto, I've done property. Every shift I've made in my business career to get to another tier of the ladder and then grow a blogging business, a public speaking coaching business, and into life coaching. Wow. There's a reason, right? Because something was brewing inside of me. When I left auto to go to property, there was definitely enough people with 25, 30 years of auto in my ear, right? Why would you leave auto? Why would you go to property? And it's like, I just always wanted to know both. I feel like there's some value in that. When I left property and decided to go into the IA world, you don't really leave property for that, but I'm saying, going from staff to the IA world, same thing, right? There's a lot of talk, but you have to know what's important to you. And I'm just here to tell you that we've got a community to help build and help you get there if you want to be there. Something's absolutely brewing, not just with 360, but with you. There's a reason you're on this call tonight. There's other people you also know that could listen to Janea's story, to Kavion's story, to Sterling's story, to Sophie's story, to Toby's story, to mine, to Michi, I was about to call him D, sorry, Mich, to Michi's stories, to Dennis, and of course, Trav, and everybody on this call. All I'm saying is feel free, make sure you reach that olive branch out. The reason is there's a new beginning for everybody out there, and there's always something brewing, and sometimes people just don't know where to find it, right? And they don't have that community yet that they need. We're here. We're glad to help. Reach out to any of us that can help and assist. I know Coach Ryan dropped in his information. I'm going to say his financial. Sorry, Coach, not your financial information, but dropped in his information for his business. I'm always available to you all. Feel free to reach out. Our marketing team is always posting things online to share how to reach us and how to follow, and tips as well. We wish you all the best. I look forward to walking beside you as you enjoy your new beginning and as you accept the fact that something is brewing for you. I now turn it back.
Let's go.
Indeed. Thank you, Coach K Joy. I truly appreciate that.
Thank
we appreciate you. But like you said, new beginnings, something good is brewing. We have to, speak life into our situation. So again, I would like to thank everyone that attended the meeting today. We truly appreciate you. You are here for a reason. There are plenty of, adjuster schools and academies, but I just would like to say, not to toot our own horn, but what sets us apart is the fact that we do train and develop new and existing adjusters, but the most important thing is that we focus on the human aspect of this. So
yes, sir.
That's what sets us apart. So just understand that, this is a very challenging industry, but we're here for you. So like Coach K Joy said, like I said earlier, please fill out those feedback forms. And if you have any questions before we end the meeting, you still have the opportunity to drop them in the chat. But reach out to us. We're here. We're approachable. We're here to help. And also, I do want to mention, I would like to challenge everyone because those deployments are starting to roll out. So I want to challenge everyone to 100K Club. Like we stated earlier, Travis, he figured out that formula to make $100,000 in 1 month. And that's the premise for this club. So we started as an enticement to encourage, adjusters, old and new, to, push yourself to make that $100,000 in a month. So, and then also one last thing I would like to also state is, like we mentioned the flight assessment earlier. If there's anyone in the meeting that's interested in, taking the flight assessment yourselves, to, figure out more about yourself,
if you're interested in self-growth.
Definitely self-growth, because it'll basically tell you some things that you kind of know about yourself, but it puts it in words, and it just helps you with just everything, communicating, interacting with people, things of that nature. So feel free to, like we said, to reach out to us. We're here for you.
Recommend that. Yes,
definitely.
Thank you guys.
Thank you for attending the Laboratory of Redemption week 28. Next week we will be meeting again, same time, same day. Our guest speaker will be, who just spoke, Coach K Joy. She'll be coming on and giving us some great information. So stay tuned, reach out, follow us on socials. Again, I would like to say thank you for attending, and we'll see you guys next week.
Yes, have a great night, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Get my dance on. Hey.
Yeah, great job, Kayvon.
Thank you, Janea. Same to you. Talk to y'all soon.
Good job, Clifton.
Later.
Everyone did
we
excellent.
still dancing. We still dancing. Okay, Joy. Go ahead. Go, Ricky. I'll go, Ricky.
All right.
Saturday Night Fever. All right, I'm out.
All right, later.